All right, guys, it is Sunday, April 14th, 2024, and I wasn't going to do anything today. I need to mow my lawn again. I never did weed eat the first time after I mowed my yard, so the grass that I didn't weed eat is 3 times or 4 times higher than it is, or it was. Anyway, what I decided to do was, I don't know if Steve will have enough time to come over here today, but I tried calling him, but it went straight to voicemail, so I did text him. I'm going to see if he has about an hour to come over here, and all he's going to do is help me line it up, you know, get it guided down in the car. But I've got everything out, kind of getting it ready at this point. But if he can't make it today, I'm going to have to find somebody to come over here and help me with it, because I don't want to try to put all of it in by myself and, you know, chip the firewall, scratch something, or, you know, have one person underneath guiding the trans and the other one out here running the engine hoist and watching that firewall. But anyway, I got the engine set in here. The engine mounts are on it. I do need to put the flex plate on it, so I'm going to hoist it up in the air and get the flex plate put on. And here's the flex plate that was off of it. It actually has a SFI tag on it, so that's a pretty nice little flex plate. That's pretty cool. And then I got the bolts out and ready. Anyway, I got the front wheels on the car, got it down on its own weight so far without the engine trans in it. But anyway, I rolled it backwards, and it's enough to get my engine hoist moved in. I do need to put the front seal in the trans because I haven't done that yet. I just pulled the torque converter out. I brought it out here just in case it leaks. I wanted it to kill the weeds and not make a mess in the driveway. So anyway, anytime I separate an engine and trans, I'm going to replace that front seal. But this still has the cage around the front seal, which is kind of rare, because I have, I think, 4 or 5 700 R4s here, and I think between them all it only had one. So anyway, that's kind of neat. I'll definitely be putting that back on there, but I'm going to change this front pump seal right here, because you don't want to reuse an old one. You always want to change that anytime you separate them, because once that torque converter bolts come out, that torque converter is so heavy that it kind of sets for a little bit offset. So it's going to have a lot of pressure on one side of that seal, and if that tranny sets for a long time out of the car and that seal starts getting dried out, it'll just leak. So that is going to get replaced today. And then the tail shaft seal I'd put on at his house, and it is still really nice and pliable, and this one's easy to change anyway. But anyway, there's no need to change that. It is super soft, so that's really awesome. So that's where I'm at. I'm pretty excited, man. That I mean, once the engine and trans goes in, I can go ahead and tighten the engine mount bolts down, the transmission crossmember to transmission mounts on the rubber pad, cushion, whatever you want to call it. And at that point, it's just time to start bolting things together. So I need to kind of talk to him and see what he's going to do, whether I keep going or he's going to come and get it. But I'd at least like to get all this stuff set in the car, and then that way there's not a separate engine, a separate trans, and, you know, a whole bunch of parts separated that he has to haul out, because I don't have room here to store the car. If I bring another car in here to work on it, I got to have this bay in my garage, because my car has to stay inside. I don't leave my car outside overnight. So anyway, pretty excited. I wiped off I used some spray wax, that Quick Shine or whatever it's called, and wiped off the car and got all the dust, and there was rubbing compound from where they buffed the car all over the place on this thing, all down in the crevices and everything, and I got it all out of there. So it looks pretty good. Maybe that's Steve right now, I don't know. All right, that was Steve. He was in church when I called, but I think it was about 11:45, and I thought church got out at 11 or something, but I guess every church is different, who knows. But and maybe there's not a set time, I don't know. So he's going to come over and we're going to get it stabbed in there. So I'm excited, man. That the coolest part is it's going to free up a lot of space. I don't have the engine sitting behind the car on a stand. I don't have the transmission sitting way over there. This will be really nice. More pieces to the puzzle installed, we'll say, but it looks really nice after I wiped it all down and got all the compound and everything off the firewall. It looks really nice. This engine compartment is going to be gorgeous. I will say, however, The new hardware that I put on, you can see where their washer was in the paint. So I need to dig around and maybe go to Tractor Supply, because I got to go over there anyway, and see if they have any different grade 8 Gold Cad washers that are a little bit bigger diameter, because that drives me crazy. Let's see, there's enough nut, or enough bolt hanging out of the nut. I might just find a washer that actually fits and paint it black or something. I don't know, maybe I could just put a silver zinc plated one under it. Hell, who knows? But I'll think of something. But those are definitely visible when the hood's up. Anyway, I wiped all the chassis down, the A-arms and everything, and I gotta tell you, it looks gorgeous, man. Those gloss black A-arms on that low gloss black chassis, that is a pop, man. It just pops. You can see the reflection off the Gold Cad grade 8 bolts that I bolted the A-arms down with. Those are new. You can see the reflection of the gold in the paint. I like that little stuff like that. It's detail, man. You know, if Steve wanted to, he could get really, really crazy with the detail, you know, buy a bunch of ARP bolts, and which, you know, putting all that stuff in there. It's stainless steel, but it's stronger than a grade 8 bolt. It's like a 9.2 or something like that, I think is what they told me. You know, changing all that stuff out to stainless and polishing it would really look awesome, but that's a lot of money and a lot of labor there. But, you know, and this grade 8 stuff, I buy it by the pound, so it's not too expensive, but it looks good, man. So I've noticed in the comments that some people like the tires and wheels on the car, the Rally's painted body color. And I mean, I don't dislike it. To me, they're muscle car wheels, and everybody's got an opinion, you know what I mean? The sad truth about it is they didn't prep the wheels. I'm assuming they painted them silver before, and then their minds got changed later and they put the body color on there, and I don't know if they sanded it. And the reason I say that, the paint is bubbling up. It's falling off, so they're not prepped very well, so it wouldn't last anyway. But that's why you see silver in there. The wheels were silver first, and then they taped them off to put the copper in there. So instead of flaking their clear coat out because those caps snap in, I'm assuming that's why they taped it off. Because if you base cleared the entire wheel and then you pulled that cap off, it might flake that clear way out here in the open where you'd see it. But anyway, Steve bought Kragers, and one of them's actually already came in. They are on back order, but they're supposed to be out at the end of this month. But I mean, who knows? But he got one in already, which is pretty cool. Those Krager SS wheels, they have center caps, and they have a little engraved spot in them that says Krager, and I think SS on it, little logo. And it's kind of a hard, grainy look, and it may be blue in there. I don't know. I don't remember. I'll have to look. But I told him we could put a little bit of copper in there if he wanted to. It just kind of depends. But then again, I don't know if he's ready to take it home and take a break with it for a while or not for sure. We haven't really talked about it. So just feel him out and see what he says. But my plan for this car, before I put the front clip on it, I want to put the engine and trans in. I want to put the core support in it, and I'm going to hard mount the core support to the chassis. And what I mean by that is I'm not putting the rubber cushion on the core support, so I can mount the core support in there and it's not moving around back and forth and flexible with a rubber cushion under it. I will change it later. You know, when I go to hang the fenders and all that, I'll pull that hard space. I use spacers that are pretty wide with a 3/8 hole in the center. But what it does is it tightens that core support down to that chassis, and it doesn't move. If I just put the rubber cushion in there, that thing will want to lean back into the engine. And we're running a mechanical fan, so anyway, I want to hard mount it at first, because I want to break the cam in on the engine. We got to run it for like 25 minutes with the RPMs up a little bit to break the cam in on initial startup. But to me, that's the best way to start, or check for leaks and check the motor over. You don't have fenders to lean over and all the grill and all thing in it to lean over on. It'll be nice and open right there. So if anything happens, I have room to get in there and work on it. So after the engine goes in and its cam's broke in and we bring the idle back down and everything's good to go, then I will unbolt the core support, take those hard mount spacers out of there, and put rubber cushion under there. It's supposed to have, and then bolt it down. I had somebody comment on my hardtop because I had posted a video of setting the engine and trans in. I had the core support bolted to it with them aluminum spacers under there. And they're like, you need to buy this and such part number from Danchuck for that. I hard mount them so they don't move and lay back, especially when you're running a mechanical fan. You don't want anything getting into your water pump pulley, you know what I mean? Or your fan, or like in my case, I have an electric fan and I didn't want it leaning up against the water pump pulley. But anyway, again, more keyboard professionals tell you how to do your job. It's always interesting. Kind of a funny story. I had a guy stop by yesterday in a 66, I think it was, Le Mans. Pretty decent looking car, and somebody told him that I had a 55 Chevy for sale. 2-car hardtop. You believe that? And I said, who told you that? And he goes, oh, some guy at a cruise night said you live over here in the... He said my housing edition and everything, and I was like, no, I don't have a car for sale. And he said, well, he said you sell everything. Oh, okay. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But anyway, he had stated that guy said it's a decent done car. It's not, you know, real nice or nothing. And I was like, he said it wasn't real nice, huh? He goes, that's what he said. And I said, well, you tell him next time you see him to bring his car over here and let's see who's got the nicest car. Now, I'm not trying to have a big head or nothing, but you don't talk shit about somebody's car. And the biggest part about it is this guy probably didn't build his entire car from top to bottom, front to back like I did, and did every single thing in a 2-car garage. He probably had this done, had this done, you know, and then he bolted stuff on probably. There's a little bit more to building cars than screwing emblems on a car or putting a headlight in. I did all of it on my car. My car never left this house. I did the upholstery, I did the paint, the body, the metal, the glass, the wiring, the stainless trim. I done it all. And it was a bare shell with no wiring, no glass, and everything when it came here. Now, of course, it's dusty right now. The gaps are mint on it. Everything was gapped in metal. The car's laser straight. There's no bumps in it. Of course, the engine's dusty too, but yeah. Bring your car over, bud. Don't talk shit about my car. Let's see what you got. And I'll stick a mirror under it and give you a light to climb under it and look at it if you want. That kind of made me mad. Not saying I got the best car around, but I guarantee you, I'm pretty proud of that car. And, you know, I'm not a rich guy. I built every bit of that car myself. So I don't go around talking shit on people's cars. That's kind of rude because, you know, I do know guys that build cars. They build cars. The only thing they do is like bolt trim on and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. You're building a car. That's great. But don't walk around with your head giant acting like a big dog because your car's nice. The people that should have a big head are the guys that did the paint work, the interior work, and all that kind of stuff. But this is a hobby or a job, whatever you want to call it. It's an art form in a way, and I guarantee you, if you're going to build a car that everybody's going to be looking at, you want to make sure the damn thing's nice. So anyway, here we go. All right, guys. GoPro overheated on me, so I had to take it in the house for a little while. I got the front pump seal in, the new one. I got the cage back on it. I lubricated the seal before I put it on, and then I put a little bit of lube on this deal, and I got some lube smeared around the snout there. What I use is assembly goo. One of my real good friends, Jason, told me about this, and the last transmission I built, I used this. So anyway, a little dab will do you, I guess. It's called assembly goo. But anyway, it's a good lubricant for that. I mean, you know, I've used grease before, and you know, just about anything. Transmission fluid for, you know, seals and stuff. But anyway, if that's what Jason uses, that's what I'm going to use. So he's a transmission guy. He's actually a firefighter, but he does a lot of transmissions, and I trust that guy. So he put a new reverse gear in a 4-speed I had before, and the only thing he charged me for was parts. The guy's awesome, trust me. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get that torque converter put in. So there is a part missing off this transmission. I'm going to have Steve get one. I noticed this was gone. So there's supposed to be a retaining ring on here. And anyway, it is not on here, and it needs to be put on here, because if this governor cover comes off while you're driving the car, transmission fluid goes everywhere, you'll lose all your gearing, it won't go anywhere, and it could start a fire on the exhaust. And it's probably gonna be a tow truck, and I doubt you'll ever find it if it does pop off going down the road. And the reason that I say that, my real good friend Terry, who has the red 55 Chevy two-door sedan that sometimes stops by like Santa Claus and drops off parts for me, he was telling me at the Claremore Lake Car Show when I had my car there that him and his buddies went to the Good Guys show at Colorado, and they all drove their cars, and one of his buddies, the cover come off of his transmission, and they didn't find the cover. So anyway, I think he said it ended up getting towed, and anyway, it was a big mess. So I need to see if I can find one of those. I don't know if they make those new or not, but I'm sure there's probably some on eBay at least, and may get lucky and find on Amazon for cheaper. So if that's the case, I'll get a hold of Steve and have him pick one of them up. But I have a 700R4 under here, and I reached back up under there and felt of it because it's on the other side, and it doesn't have one on it either. And I do have some transmissions, some 700R4s in my shed, but they're all the way at the back corner in that shed, and I'm not going out there and digging all that stuff out again. I just did all that a couple days ago when I was doing that. I can't even think of what I'm trying to say. Window regulator track. Window track, not regulator, but anyway, I'm not going out there and digging all that stuff out again. No way. Plus, it's pretty hot today, and it is probably going to be really hot in that shed, and I just don't feel like climbing up in there for probably a $7 or $8 part. So anyway, back to it. I don't think I mentioned this, but when Jim brought the engine back, Steve's 327, the canister that goes down in the lifter valley that bolts in, and it's part of your crankcase ventilation system for these old 327s, the canister wasn't in there, and I'd sent that to the machine shop and had it vatted with everything else because it was coked up with oil and just nasty, and it had all that shop dust on it and everything. Anyway, he didn't put it in there. It's just one bolt. And I said, "Where's the canister at? Is it in your truck?" And he goes, "No, I threw it under the bench at my house." And I was like, "Well, I'm going to need that." And he goes, "No, just put a freeze plug in it." So he's like, "Just pop a freeze plug in there. You don't really need it." And I'm like, "Okay." Steve's valve covers don't have holes in them. There's no holes in them valve covers. They're just like a factory, valve cover. There's no holes here to put a PCV valve or vent tubes or breathers or anything like that on it. So if you pop a freeze plug in there and you put sealed valve covers on, that thing will build up so much pressure it'll blow your valve cover gaskets out the bottom of it. Ask me how I know. I learned that in the 90s when I was younger. So anyway, I told him we're definitely going to have that back. Kind of irritating a little bit, I don't know why you wouldn't bring it back even if you didn't use it, but whatever. So now I've got to track that thing down because I can't put the intake manifold on until it goes on there. Now he did state that the intake won't go on the engine with that in there, but the intake was on it, and there wasn't any marks on it that had interfered with it. I could kind of see, an aftermarket intake, like maybe an air gap intake like this one. These air gap small block intakes that has like a valley into it. So I could see it not working with one of these, but not the intake that Steve has. So anyway, it's kind of upsetting, but anyway, definitely have to track it down because we're going to need it. All right, moving right along here. So I went in and used a thread cleaner and cleaned the transmission bell housing bolts, which I had my engine stand bracket on there, but there was a couple of them that was open. But anyway, I just went ahead and did them all after I took it off just to be sure. And then on the back of the crank, I went ahead and ran a cleaner dye through there just to be sure. I don't ever, like on an engine, anytime I'm assembling something, I'll go in and make sure the threads are clear. I'm gonna have to go in and do all the exhaust manifold bolt holes I think I maxed off the water pump one, but I did the engine mount bosses before I put the engine mounts on. But it's just what I do. Everybody's kind of different, does their own thing, but I'll do the intake holes and everything before I put the intake on. So flex plate's on tight. I rolled the transmission in here, torque converter's in it, so this is ready to be mated to that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, what I normally do is I'll lay something kind of soft on the floor, like an old towel or a shirt or something, for the bottom of the oil pan to touch. So I'll set it down, but I'll use like a 4x4 block, and I usually have to use a little 1x or something to put right up underneath the balancer, and it keeps the engine straight when it's sitting down flat. So it's basically setting on the belt or the oil pan and the balancer. Then I'll roll the transmission up there to get it on the dowels and then get the bolts started in it. So it's all this little tedious prep work, man, but it's getting there. So I lined the lifter valley with paper towels, and then I stuffed paper towels in the intake ports there. And I didn't so much worry about the coolant passages, and the reason is I'll flush the block out with the plugs out of it before I put the final coolant in it. So anyway, it's going to get a good flushing, but anyway, if anything gets in there, it'll come out. But I didn't want any dirt and debris and crap to fall in here in the, you know, hour or 2 hours it's going to be open in here. So fortunately, I don't have much, the wind ain't blowing much today, and I don't have any windows in here, so there's no air circulates in here, and that's why I'm usually, when it's warm, I have sweat all over me. It's just kind of steamy in here. It's cooler to work outside under the carport, even though the top of the carport gets hot because you have a breeze going through there. So anyway, that's where I'm at. Getting ready to mate these two together. Well, I forgot, when the previous people spray painted the transmission with cast iron gray, that they painted the whole damn TV cable, man. I tell you, sloppy ass work. That is right up there on the side of the carburetor, right where you can see it. That's nice. Anyway, I masked it off when I painted the transmission, but I unmasked it, and then I found that. I remembered seeing it the first time, but I'd forgot. And then I remembered after I seen it again, but I'm going to have to try to clean this up a little bit, try to get some of that flaking paint off there. And this is plastic, so I'm going to use SEM brand Landau Black. It'll make it look like brand new plastic, and it's made for plastic and vinyl and rubber and that kind of stuff. And I have a can of it over there, so. Right there, Landau Black 15013. This looks like real plastic after you paint it. It's not shiny glossy like, they do have a gloss black, but don't get that. Get that Landau Black, because it has a satiny or semi-flat or whatever you want to call it sheen that makes it look like real plastic. If it's gloss black, it looks like it's been spray painted, in my opinion. All right, so I had the engine and trans masked off, and I used a brass wire brush by hand and just kind of went over there and flaked a bunch of the spray paint off. That cast iron gray, just pretty much most of it came off doing that. Then I used a gray Scotch-Brite and scuffed up the plastic. Then I used wax and grease remover on a microfiber and wiped it all down. Then I shot it with the Landau Black. So now it looks pretty nice. I even masked off the silver part of the cable and then shot this in too. But anyway, it looks pretty nice now. It looks new. It doesn't look fake like it's gloss black, you know what I mean? So I want to make sure that this goes up toward the front of the engine up here. When we go to put it in the car, I don't want it getting bound up back here and kinking it or something. Same thing with this. We have that's a flexible braided transmission dipstick, so we don't have the traditional metal dipstick that bolts on behind one of the bolts. So this thing is pretty much ready to set in the car. I'm gonna wait on Steve to get here. I'm gonna have to resituate my chain back further and on back here to pull it up even. I don't want it, you know, hanging down or anything. I like it to be, you know, maybe down just a little bit in the back, but most of the time I get it kind of even. But anyway, it allows me to get it in there pretty good because the cross member's in it, and I'd like to get it up and over that. I might actually lay a rag on top of the cross member and then set it all up in there, then jack up the transmission pan and pull the rag out and then set it down. That's probably what I'll do. I guess I need to take the bolts back out of the motor mounts. I set them in there so I knew where they were, but I need to go ahead and take them out. But it's looking pretty good, man. That's gonna look really, really nice. It's that little bitty details like that, it'll make a world of difference. All right, guys, so Steve just left. He came by and helped me guide the engine and trans in the car. So it is in the car, but not completely installed yet. So I left the cross member bolted to the frame, and we was having trouble getting it, you know, up high enough to get it up on the deal and get it over those side engine mounts. So we ended up having to take the rubber mount off the transmission and put it on there. So now I need to jack up the trans and put the bolts back in. I may have to take the cross member out to get to those bolts to put them back in, but anyway, I have to do a little bit of adjustments there. But man, oh man, does it look awesome. That is going to be a detailed engine compartment right there. That looks awesome. Other than those crappy valve covers, but those will be gone. And then he got one in, and he took it down and had the tire put on and brought it over here, and I put it on with a couple lug nuts, just snugged it down so he could, well, him and I could get a look at it. But got some Krager SS's, and you can see the drilled and slotted rotors through there. You can see the caliper on there. I mean, that was worth detailing all that stuff just for that right there. And then we got the center cap here, and he's wanting to put copper instead of blue in here, so I'm going to do that. But anyway, I've still got some of his paint right here. It's base coat, so there's more in the can still yet, but I've got some there that last time I mixed some up, I got it ready. Anyway, he decided to go ahead and have me finish the car. Instead of taking a break on it, he wants to go ahead and just get it finished. So I'm happy about that, because I don't know how long it's going to be before I get back to it if my brother-in-law brings his 48 Chevy over here. I don't actually know how serious he is on that. He was like, I'll do that. But anyway, I would imagine what he says he's going to do, he usually does. My brother-in-law does, so he would probably do that, I'm sure. But anyway, I'm happy, man. That I have two things out of my garage floor now, so that's the engine and trans. They're actually in the car. So I've got to go to a buddy's house right down here in the town that's next to me, and I got to work on his carburetor. He bought a new carburetor from Summit, a Holly, and put it on his car, and he says it's burning his eyes in his garage. So he didn't adjust it, he just bolted it on. I don't know if it's a double pumper. I don't know. I don't even know. He kind of knows about cars a little bit. I don't know. He does light mechanic stuff. I don't think he's ever tuned a Holly or anything, but anyway, I'm going to go down there and work on that for him. He'd give me an HEI distributor like a year ago, and so I told him I'd just come over there, and because he's like, I'll pay you. And I was like, well, I'll just come over and tune it. It's probably just going to need the air bleeds adjusted, and I'm going to put a vacuum gauge on it after it gets warmed up and see what it is, and I'll take my carburetor box with me. I got a lot of power valves in there, so I'll try to get him a power valve in there that works, and it won't take me 20 minutes probably, in theory, we'll say. Hopefully he didn't buy like an 850 double pumper and put it on a 350, because his car's got a 350 in it. We'll see. Anyway, he doesn't want his house filmed, he doesn't want his car filmed, so I won't be able to take the GoPro. I wanted to video his garage because he's got a lot of memorabilia on the walls in there, and it's really cool looking. You can tell he's a gearhead when that garage door's open, but he's a private guy, and I get it. Some people are like that. I've got a buddy over here that's got quite a few Tri-5s out in the field, and he's got a Gasser 55. He had a hardtop that was restored. He's got a Model A coupe. He's got a Phaeton rat rod. I mean, he's got quite a few cool cars, and he's got a big shop, and it's decked out with memorabilia, and he's the same way. I called him and said, hey, you mind if I come over and video, put it on YouTube? He's like, I don't want people seeing my stuff. So that's the way some people are, and that's why I always ask before I just show up and start filming, you know what I mean? Some people are private. Even if you don't, give away their address and whatever, some people are like that, you know what I mean? So anyway, guys, I am done for today. I'm gonna go ahead and push the car back in, break the table down, and go work on that carburetor, and then I guess tomorrow I'll hit it hard on Steve's car. Keep putting stuff together. I'm on a roll now. Thanks for watching.